Today our guest is Jesús Pindado. Jesús is the Vice President of Engineering at MC10. MC10 is a Boston-based company that has developed a sensing technology, a visionary sensing technology that aims to advance healthcare far beyond where it is today. Is that correct, Jesús?
That is right. Yes.
Roughly. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jesús, we can maybe delve into the details later, but just give me the elevator pitch. What is this technology all about?
Sure. So MC10 has developed groundbreaking bioelectronic sensors that are comfortable, designed to be worn on the human body, anywhere on the human body, to store, transmit information about our physiology. This is medical grade information about our physiology, and we transfer that information to a state-of-the-art cloud infrastructure where we analyze the data and produce insights that are relevant for healthcare purposes.
Okay. And who's using this technology already? Like, who are the early adopters of this?
So there's a lot of different applications to the technology, and it's still early days. Today, we see adoption in three separate verticals, if you will. On the one hand, we have a lot of academic researchers trying to understand what is the art of the possible. These are people that are publishing novel work, understanding how to use sensors to capture things that haven't been captured before.
Okay.
We have a lot of pharma companies that are developing drug products that are interested in monitoring patients in ways that they haven't been monitored before in their own environment, in their homes, etc. And we're beginning to see the adoption of the sensors and the technology by hospitals as well, in the context of certain therapeutic treatments or certain interventions.
Okay. The company's mission statement says that you are developing this technology with the entire healthcare continuum in mind. Like, is that literal, or what do you mean by that? The entire healthcare continuum.
So healthcare is a very complicated industry, and it encompasses a lot of different stakeholders. And if you think about where it begins and where it ends, well, the lines are very blurry. The power of our sensors and our technology is that we really see people using them from the very early stages of discovery of a new drug, early stages of researchers understanding what the relationships are between, for example, heart beat patterns and sleep, or the early onset of certain diseases as they manifest themselves in your physiology. And I can give some examples of this. But at the same time, the technology is applicable towards the opposite end of the spectrum, where the practice of healthcare can benefit from doctors, physicians, having a relationship with patients that is different from the relationship that they have today, whereby it is a lot more objective. It is grounded on actual data that comes from a patient, not during a specific test or once a year when you go see a doctor for a checkup, but kind of on an ongoing basis. And what the company means by this continuum is that the technology is applicable to both ends of that spectrum. Even, if you think about healthcare from the perspective of wellness before you're sick, or if you think of healthcare from the perspective of disease management, there are some diseases that we don't have cures for today. And the best we can hope for is that people find a way to manage the disease, manage the progression of the disease, try to maintain as good a quality of life as possible. And understanding how the disease is affecting you, either from a mood perspective, from a physical perspective, from a stamina perspective, is something that can be much better accomplished when you have data to really understand what's happening to you.
Okay. Let's go now back to the technology behind these sensors. Like, unleash the engineer within you, Jesus. How exactly do they work, these sensors or this technology?
Yeah, so we have different kinds of sensors, and they don't all work the same way. One of the but the key aspect around everything that we do is this concept of biocompatible, stretchable, flexible electronics. This is at the root of what MC10 does, and it's really going back to the beginning of the company's founding principles and the inception of the company. We have a lot of intellectual property and a lot of know-how at the intersection of electronics, material science, and data processing. So the technology that MC10 has is unique in that it uses very low power sensors. These are accelerometers, these are optical sensors, these are electrical sensors, and they need to be packaged in a form factor that is comfortable on the skin. Some people refer to this as electronic tattoos, or the name actually captures a lot of this in what we call it biostamp. It's a stamp that you wear on your body. A lot of the work that we do is very multidisciplinary. So we have a lot of mechanical engineers that are looking to make the systems robust from a mechanical perspective, durable. But we also have material scientists that need to figure out how do you take a piece of electronics and cover it in a material that is soft. And sometimes these criteria from an engineering perspective are at opposite ends of the requirements spectrum. There's a lot of work around making this technology usable. If you think about the target demographic for our technology, a lot of times it's easy to get carried away and think about what is possible technologically speaking, but a lot of thought has to go into when you make this system, who's going to be using it. And so we have designed all of our technology so that it's connection-less. You don't have to worry about plugging anything into anything else. But even the interfaces and the data and how the data transfers, we try to make that as passive and as seamless as possible. And so one of the things that makes the work at MC10 so much fun from a engineering and product development perspective is this multidisciplinary nature where you're thinking materials one day, you're thinking electronics the next day, and you're thinking software and interfaces the next day.
Let's talk about MC10, the company itself. How was it put together? I mean, what's the story behind MC10?
So you're hearing this secondhand because I was not part of the...
Yeah, I know, but you know it very well.
Yeah, so MC10 is an interesting company. It was founded in 2008. It was incubated from the very beginning by a venture capital firm, Northbridge Ventures, who is still one of the leading investors in the company, and the gentleman that served as the glue to put the founding team together, Carmichael Roberts, is still the chairman of the board at MC10 today. He started the company with the help of John Rogers, who's really the father of the field of flexible and stretchable electronics. He's a material scientist. He's world renowned. He's received numerous awards for a lot of pioneering work. He's got something like 80 patents to his name, and probably more now. And these two gentlemen, together with our CTO and Senior VP of Corporate Development, who are now my colleagues, started the company with an idea of how stretchable electronics could change so many different things. Thinking early on about healthcare, but not only healthcare, many other applications as well. And very quickly the company progressed through a series of fundraising episodes and continued to develop the technology.
Okay. So that's basically the story behind that?
Yeah, some companies are started in a garage. Some companies are started by a couple of people who have an idea and want to, create a prototype. MC10 from the very beginning was founded with the vision of flexible electronics, but not so much in the traditional way. Let me, as an entrepreneur, create a prototype and go out and see if I can get product market fit, and then try to get some funding for it. In the case of biotechnology and certain medical device companies, the capital requirements and the regulatory environment to take the company, to take an idea and make it into a company, is such that you're really better off by starting with a little bit more infrastructure and a little bit more support from the very beginning. And it's not that atypical to have venture capital firms that have a lot of experience assembling a team of people that have all the right skills and the right combination of experience to incubate a project and then kind of launch it into its own once it gets going.
Into the world.
Exactly.
I don't know how much you can talk about this, but what's your strategy as a company? Like, are you aiming to widen your user base? Or are you, on the contrary, going to develop new technologies and leverage the existing users? What's your strategy here? How do you gain traction?
So the strategy has changed over time as the company has matured. In the very beginning, the technology was not as mature as it is today, and so we did a lot of work with DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency in the U.S. We did a lot of work with Air Force Research Lab, and we did a lot of work with some technology development groups inside larger corporate entities. Today, we're in a much different spot. We're looking to unleash value and really get the technology into the market. That does not mean that we are looking to grow the user base as much as possible. If you think about wearables holistically, there's a lot of there's been an explosion of devices in the consumer space, and a lot of people are using these devices to motivate themselves to go running or sleep better. These are products that are good for the general population because they create awareness and they make people more active. MC10 strategy is different. We're singularly focused on clinical grade, medically viable technology that can be deployed against the most stringent use cases, where we're looking to pick up on patterns and understand things in such a way that medical professionals can make decisions based on them. So we're working, as I said in the beginning, we're working with pharmaceutical companies. Many of the top pharma companies are evaluating these types of technologies, and they're using our systems. And over the next 12-24 months, we should see much larger adoption of our systems in clinical trials, sometimes early stage, sometimes late stage. That's a big market. A typical pharma company spends $800-900 million today to go from early stage molecule development to a drug product in the pharmaceutical drug product in the marketplace. And then we're also looking to see which areas in healthcare services we can have the most impact into. Here there are some specific conditions where we think our technology is uniquely suited to either improve outcomes or lower costs in the system, or a combination of both. So we're very focused on orthopedic rehabilitation of the cardiac system after people go through heart surgery. We have done significant work with people that are trying to understand how to manage their Parkinson's disease. So the strategy is now to continue to focus on early stage drug development, servicing that market, and separately servicing the healthcare market in specific areas.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that have questions about potentially using our technology for sports or for wellness or in other cases, and we've decided not to pursue that ourselves. The way we handle that is through licensing agreements. So our technology can be used in those applications, and oftentimes we see a potential market for it, but we can't really do it all, and we've decided to focus on healthcare as a strategy. So sometimes people will license our technology or IP, and they'll create a product. L'Oreal is a good example of this. L'Oreal recently launched a product called My UV Patch, which uses photosensitive dyes to allow someone to understand the UV exposure that they've had and be a little bit more sensitive about skin health. And L'Oreal does a lot of research around perspiration for deodorant products and cosmetic products, but they also have a huge interest in producing products that allow people to protect their skin.
The skin. Jesus, the whole industry is bullish on VR, AR, gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you are looking into as a company? I mean, it's on your radar, or?
Yeah. So again, one of the things about our technology, it's a great thing, is it can be applicable to so many different fields. And as a startup, one of the most difficult things to do is to pick. You have to pick because you cannot do all the things at the same time. So yes, there's overlap. There's a lot of potential applications. VR, gaming. We've decided not to actively pursue that internally, but there are a lot of applications where a combination of VR and sensors can be used to create this kind of a closed loop feedback system where you're getting better at some task, and that task could be golf or swinging a bat, or that task could also be health related, right? It could be something like after I've had a stroke, I want to improve my balance or I want to improve the symmetry of my gait. So there's a lot of opportunity here. There's some early work that researchers are doing. There's not a lot of products in the market yet, but I think that'll come. And then on the consumer side, on the fun side of things, interactive gaming, connected gaming, there's a lot of room, for example, for dynamically changing the difficulty in a video game, not based on just the progress that you're making in that video game, but also based on your physiological response to what's happening, right? Or, in the case of some kind of a battling game where you're competing against someone, maybe seeing your opponent's heart rate or something like that. There's a lot of opportunity to do that. Same thing with workouts. I think if you're a competitive person and you're on a static bicycle, you could and this actually, there's some products in the market now that are leveraging this sort of thing, looking at somebody else that you're not really working with physically, but working out with in a connected sense, right? I think there's a lot of opportunities to do interesting work there.
You work in an industry that is going to bring tremendous changes to humanity. I mean, and the way we think about ourselves. I mean, there are people out there that are speaking openly about immortality. Ray Kurzweil says that by the year 2040, 2050 maybe, we will be able to download the information in our brains to new bodies. Mm-hmm. Is this something that you think about at all? I mean, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, so I've read a little bit about that. I've read The Age of the Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil, and I'm very skeptical personally. I think that there'll be tremendous progress in our lifetimes beyond, but I don't think that we're at a point where the radical leap that he's got. What does he call this? The singularity. He calls it the singularity, right? I don't think that we'll see that in my lifetime or in your lifetime, or probably in our in our children's lifetimes. I think we're still very far away from that. There's a similar hype and mania, if you will, around AI and machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, where people think that we're going to be living in a world like Terminator, right, where the machines are going to take over and they'll be uncontrollable, and humans will be somehow end up at the service of these machines. And I think there's some effects that are very real around dislocations in the labor market, where jobs that people are doing are disappearing because we now have robots, or we have computers that can do all these things. Yep. That is a very real problem. I think that needs to connect into how we think about education and both at the state level and then at the individual level. But I think this idea of transhumanism, where we're all going to be some mix of biological machines and cybernetic machines, is very far away.
You don't see that coming soon?
I think it may happen at some point in humanity's history, but not anytime soon.
Yeah. You seem to be very passionate about what you do, but your background is aerospace engineering, right? Mm-hmm. So where does this passion come from for what you do now? What's the evolution? What's the story of Jesús Pindado working in this project?
Yeah, so this is a new field for me, and I think it's been a tremendous learning opportunity. I've switched careers a few times, and I think I've been very fortunate to have always been involved in cutting edge technology through the arc of my professional experience. I started in aerospace engineering, very focused on developing avionics and control systems for drones, well before drones were mainstream. Yeah. Now it seems like everybody has a drone in their house. Yeah. But for me, my educational experience was really just a platform from which to jump into the professional world. And I've been very lucky to have surrounded myself with much smarter people than me that I could look up to, that I could learn from.
Yep.
And through hard work and a lot of luck, I've been able to always find opportunities that were adjacent to the space that I was in, where I found my interests changing slightly over time, and I really just kind of followed what I thought was a combination of opportunity, foresight, and kind of testing myself at the same time. So I like to learn. I like to learn, and I've gone from aerospace engineering to semiconductors in the consumer electronics space. I've gone to big data analysis, and a lot of what I do now is really even more connected to that than it is to the sensors. We do both at MC10, but my one of the areas that I think I've had the most impact is in the area of data analytics and putting systems together where all of the data from the sensors can be analyzed. So I'm very passionate about understanding data information, putting models together, and that's something that's always been the case. Even back 10 years, 15 years ago when I started in the aerospace industry, one of the things that I worked on that I enjoyed the most was telemetry systems. So understanding the health of the drone, if you will, right, through data. I think there's a thread that connects all of these things together, but both technically, but even kind of more fundamental than that is this idea of learning. I always like to work with people that I learn from.
So you are VP of a very dynamic organization in a fast-moving environment. Do you have like habits or routines that help you maintain your focus? I mean, it seems to be that could be very easy for you to lose like an end game focus, right? Mm-hmm. Is there something that you do to avoid that? Or a daily routine that you have? I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's very important to, for me anyway, it's very important to combine time alone with time with others. And I think the biggest risk for me is to get caught up in a lot of meetings and discussions, which are necessary to always be reacting to a flood of email or a lot of questions. But to have clarity of mind and to feel like, okay, you know, I really understand my priorities. One of the things that undeniably helps me is to get up early in the morning, have some time to structure my day and think about what do I want to get done today or this week. And then I set myself some reminders at the beginning of each month. On the first Saturday of the month, I have a thing that pops up that says, hey, what do you want to do next month? Or, you know, take a step back and think about things a little bit more long term. Because otherwise you forget. Yeah. Or I forget.
Yeah. You get dragged into the everyday minutiae of things, right?
Yeah. So I think exercise helps too. It's easy to postpone it. It's easy to be caught in the moment and not want to switch tasks or to think, hey, there's just a lot to do. I don't have time. Yeah. And for me, that's a bit of a struggle. But I realize usually after the fact that whenever I go for a workout, I like bike riding. So I realize that after an exercise, I feel better, I think better, and I very likely perform better. But it's very difficult to always keep that in mind and to have the discipline to do what at the moment feels
a waste of time.
A waste of time, or you don't have time for that, you know?
True.
I'm sure you can empathize.
Yeah, totally. How would you define success? So let me rephrase that, or not rephrase, ask in a different manner. What person encapsulates success for you?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think about success as having things in balance. And it's a very personal, what success for one person is very different from another. If you ask me, I think success involves a concept of relationships, having durable, meaningful relationships in your life. Again, something that is not always easy to keep in mind day to day, because, well, your job is so important, and you've got a lot of things in your mind. But relationships, meaningful, durable relationships with your family, friends, mentors, colleagues.
Yep.
I think kind of a lifelong sense of learning and personal development, and that could be intellectual, but it doesn't have to be only intellectual. Certainly for me, it is, right? So learning and feeling like you understand the world and things that are so interesting about the times that we live in and so on. So having a passion for learning and developing some kind of a sense of accomplishment in connection with that effort to learn something. I think financial success is important. For me, certainly it has been, and some of the decisions that I've made in my life have been connected with economic opportunity and upside, and working in startups throughout my career has always been a combination of these things, right? Learning and being able to influence things, but at the same time, a perception that there's more upside if you can create something that's unique, that doesn't exist yet, that people, society will adopt. And I guess at some point, if all of these things come into play, there's a sense of giving something back. And so you asked who. Well, it may be cliche, but I think of people that I don't know, but that I everybody sees in the news. Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. These are people that are kind of in my industry, that are trailblazers, that have created something new, that saw a lot of adoption, changed the world in many significant ways. I can't speak to their relationships or the quality of the bonds, but I get a sense from some of the folks that I see out there that they're doing this. They have they have a path where they're building something that is a company or whatever, but then at some point they give back, right? And I think that's commendable. I think in Spain there's not as much of a tradition of philanthropy as perhaps in the U.S., and I find that interesting.
To say the least. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received? Could be anything. Business, personal, investments, whatever.
Maybe I'll respond with two.
Two, okay.
I think perhaps from my dad, to always have a plan and a mission in life, understood very broadly, to think about where you want to be. I think people's lives would be a lot better if everybody kind of thought about this question more than they do. So that's one. And the other one is very practical, from a boss. Start your day very early in the morning.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Has there been a book or a film or something of that sort that has impacted substantially the way you perceive life, or the way you see life, or
Yeah. So I think if there's probably been many, but if I had to pick one, the one that comes to mind is Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Taleb, who's written a number of other books, but Fooled by Randomness was something that I've internalized, and I've thought about also as I've read other similar material about the role of luck and skill and how hard it is to attribute causal effects to outcomes. I think the idea that and this is kind of paradoxical in me, because I think that we're very much the owners of our destiny, that you should have a plan, that if you work hard, you'll eventually see some rewards out of that work.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there's a lot of things that are...
So for people that might not know, what is the essence of this book? What is the main idea?
I think the key idea is there is a lot of elements of randomness that are built into the fabric of our everyday life, and it's impossible to distinguish really what is luck from what is skill in attributing success to anything. Taleb comes from a financial trading world, and he's kind of articulated his ideas around banking and especially central banks, and how policy decisions are made, and how a lot of times those decisions are ill-conceived and not necessarily yielding the outcomes that we think they should, or having a lot of negative effects that are not very easily perceivable, right? But I think his idea is, and he's also discussed this in other contexts, is very applicable to anything. He's not the only person that I've seen articulating this, right? So where you're born, your genetics, there's a lot of things that dictates where your path in life that you've nothing to do with.
Yeah. What's been your greatest failure in life? Is there something
in life?
From the very beginning, from moment zero.
I don't know.
Nothing that you can think about?
I mean, there's many failures.
Yeah.
I just don't know which one's the biggest one.
Okay. What are you most grateful for then? That's easier.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful for the education that I had. I think.
Where did you go to school?
So I started elementary school and high school in Spain, and then I moved to the U.S. Midway through high school because of personal circumstances and family circumstances. But I think it was a tremendous opportunity, and I was able to make something out of it. But I feel very blessed that from there I went to school in Michigan, at University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and I've just met a lot of great people, mentors, professors. How I ended up transitioning from university into the professional world was through the help of a professor of mine that ran an internship program with industry, Alec Gallimore, and I applied. I wrote an essay, and this great professor connected me with the person that became my first boss, initially for an internship and eventually for a full-time position. So I think I feel very grateful for primarily for the education that I've received and the opportunities that I've had in connection with kind of professional development. Really, there's a lot more to be grateful for. I mean, I feel very grateful for the stability and the structure that my wife brings to my life. I think a lot of times I'd be a much more chaotic person if it weren't for her. I've had a couple of situations in life where I caught a break, and it was just randomness.
Yeah.
So.
What advice would you give to your... How old are you now? Almost 40, right?
39, yeah.
39. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Probably to... maybe a little paradoxical. I would say don't worry about picking the right thing or planning too far ahead. That would be something that I think would have been useful in certain situations. But I think more importantly, maybe just take time, and this is for maybe a little paradoxical, take time to be a little bit more introspective and reflect on what are the important things.
Yeah.
I think having a sense of inner peace and calm when you're 20, 22, 23, 25 can lead to just better mental states and better decision making.
For sure.
Yeah.
So with that, Jesus, thank you very much for coming over, man. And thank you for your time, and I wish you the best.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jesus.
Take care, man.